Hi, everyone. I am so pleased to be with all of you today. I might be standing, I might be sitting down, so I'll see how I feel because I had a crazy morning today. So I'm very, very thrilled and honored to be one of the first speakers. I'm very happy to be in this phenomenal space. I just want to share a small story before I start my talk. Last month, I was actually in California for the Global Shapers Annual Summit, so it's part of the World Economic Forum, and we, the Canadian Shapers, there was like 40 of us, we noticed that there was never any acknowledgement for the indigenous land in the States. So we approached the organizers and we told them, can you acknowledge the land, please? I'm like, what do you mean? So we had to actually teach them and tell them, and they were like, okay, that's interesting. So for the first day, there was no any acknowledgement for the land, but for the other 3 days, they actually acknowledged the land every single day. So we felt like we accomplished something in California. Not too big, but big enough to leave an impact for the next conferences. Before we start, I would like to ask you all a question that I usually ask anyone I meet, and I'm not kidding. Anyone I meet for the first time, I ask them the question. You don't have to answer it, but just keep it in your mind. If you could be someone else for a day, who would you want to be? It could be a man, a woman, a fictional story. Just take a second to think about who would you want to be for a day. So, chances are you all would think about someone who is known, famous, someone who have built an impact, someone who have left a legacy behind. One of the most common answers get usually is Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa for some reason. Many people want to be Obama or Trump. So there's different reasons for everyone to actually be that person for a day. Many times people want to understand how others did it, how they were able to build an impact, leave a legacy behind, and that's what I want you to think about for a second. When someone says to leave a legacy behind or build an impact, we always think about big, massive stuff, something really large scale, something that have impacted hundreds or thousands of people. But sometimes really the small act of impact is what makes a difference the most. So when people think about an impact, they usually think large scale, big magnitude, and they just feel overwhelmed, meaning that they don't feel that they could be that person who can build an impact or make a difference in the community. But I do believe really in small acts of impact, small acts of kindness, something very small that could really transform a life. So if you were to ask, who is Midia? I am someone who truly believes in a small act of kindness, and that's why I always feel like we need to channel our energy to build something small, one step at a time. I was awarded the Queen's Young Leader in June this year because of my work. I don't think my work is really large scale. Maybe now it is, but when I started, it wasn't. Because I truly wanted to kind of change one life at a time, impact a problem one stage at a time. Some of the social problems I want to target, they're big, massive, and really complex, but sometimes doing one thing that I could do at a time could make a difference. Like you guys heard, I do kind of love school so much. I've been in school for 8 years and I'm still doing it online now, so I just can't get enough from school. I love languages and cultures. I'm learning my 5th language now. So if I end up structuring sentences that don't make sense, please excuse me. My mind think of many languages at the same time. And if I were to pick a supernatural power, that would be flying. So I want to think about a supernatural power you would like to have for a day as well. Don't tell me the answer. Leave it till the end. So a few years ago, Canada actually opened a door to refugees. So Canada took approximately 25,000 refugees over the past few years. Many of them were actually located in Ontario. So I was working at that time with the Faculty of Engineering and the Makerspace movement, and I was thinking of okay, we have all these refugees moving into Canada. The government will help them with healthcare, access to education, but what will happen to them on societal level? Meaning, will they feel like they're at home? Will they know what to do? Will they be able to navigate the system? I come originally from Middle East, and I lived in different countries, and I know the system is completely different. Many of the refugees have never been to a bank, or have never done so many different, life is just different to them. So I co-led a refugee outreach program there was 2 of us initially, then we ended up with a team of 20 people, and we implemented a workshop on a weekly basis in a building that has, I would say 86 families who were all Syrian refugees. So we implemented workshops with the youth and the kids. So some of the workshops were actually teaching the kids how to code, how to 3D print, how to use technology to solve problems. I started taking lead in actually helping women start their own businesses. So many of the women now work in tailoring and catering for food and different services too. And it's funny to see how they started a few years ago and where they are now. Many of the women I helped They helped me, make clothes and stuff to kind of help market to their services. And now they're fully packed and they're being hired by clothes manufacturers all the time that they actually don't have time to me to like help me out with my clothes now. So I feel like I'm your first client, you should always keep me, but they're too busy now. Many of the women have been going back to school. They try to kind of build more skills, be able to provide the family from home. And also many of the men were started their own businesses, and some of them went back to school, other started new companies here too. So we kind of did multiple workshops and things. We looked at what exists and what was missing, and we actually built what was missing in the system. So we did not really reinvent the wheel. We just looked at all the services that exist, and we tried to fill in the gaps. While working with refugees over the past 3 years, I started to hear about the stories of what's going on in refugee camps. Now, we all know it's not the best place to be, but when you understand the operations and the dynamic, it's extremely overwhelming. They have to line up for hours and hours to get something to eat or drink or to see a doctor. And I kept hearing something of like, there's so many amputations, there's so many injuries, but there's nothing being done about them. And then me and team who were all, at that time, we were all still in school doing different fields in engineering, we started to think, what can we do? And then the fact that we also worked at the maker spaces, and I'm not sure if any of you have been to a maker space, but it's a place where you could actually use certain technology to make stuff. So 3D printing, virtual reality, Arduinos, laser cutting. And we thought, how can we help them? And we started to look at what exists and what's going on. And we noticed that since 2013, major NGOs stopped giving out prosthetics to certain refugee camps because of the high demand and the high number of amputation going on. So what we did is that we looked at the numbers, and approximately 1 million refugees have left Syria to go to Lebanon. And because of the close proximity, what happened is majority of amputation stayed within Lebanon, so we're not able to leave. And I would say 5% of refugee camps have some sort of body impairment that require them to have a prosthetic. And since no one is giving them, that number keeps increasing. Many of the new cases that we have been hearing about is that people get an infection or injury, they can't see a doctor, they end up having to amputate their arm or their leg. So some of them do not just lose a limb when they're escaping the country, but also while living in refugee camps. So that's why me and my co-founders, we co-founded a social enterprise that provides a 3D printed prosthetic to amputees. And the way we looked at it initially is that it's mixed between engineering design, maker spaces, and social entrepreneurship. So it's basically different pieces put together to kind of help amputation and refugees, to really empower them to go back to normal, be able to hold the cup with their baby or hold the pen or go back to school. So this is the design. I actually had it with me, but I left it at my work because we had another event going on. But it is a 3D printed hand. It costs approximately $20 to make. It needs 6 hours to build and assemble as well. It is mechanically actuated, which means that it actually gives a basic movement so to be able to hold objects. And it all works with body mechanics, meaning that there are different wires that connect to different body parts. And if they have to kind of retrain their brain to move the arm in a different way to be able to hold objects. And we implemented in Lebanon since 2016? It has been ages, I don't remember the exact date, but it was in summer 2016 when we went for the first time in Lebanon, and that's one of the co-founders with a kid who's amputated. So I always tell everyone that sometimes failures is what teaches you the most, and I don't lie, I have like a resume of failures, like a whole CV of all my failures versus my success, like this small. We went and we were excited, we were all, young and still in school. We thought we're gonna solve this problem, we got this. We really faced lots of challenges, and one of them is the fact that we thought we knew what refugee wanted. And just because we talked to them, we had an idea that, we know what they need, we can solve this, we got this, let's go and do it. But when we traveled, we really have no idea what struggles, what issues they face. And one of them is the fact that an amputation is a stigma to them, and that's something we did not think about. So the hands that we wanted to take with us, you can't see it here, but it was white and blue and glow in the dark and like the craziest thing you can think about. We had Iron Man hand and all weird stuff. The kids loved it. The mom and the dad looked at us and like, we're not taking this back with us because we'll actually make their kids as a target because everyone can see them, everyone can make fun of them now. So we felt kind of like we have failed, but we didn't. We just learned from the mistake that we did. So another major setback that we noticed the first round is the fact that we had no idea of what's going on when you implement something globally, meaning how does NGOs interact with other organizations? They have certain prostheses that they work with. Who could give money? Who could operate? When you phone them and you talk to them, you think that you had everything figured out, but when you actually go, you discover that you have no idea. And that was something else that we were shocked when we went to, because what we thought we will do, it turned out it was absolutely not going to happen. And we were kind of stuck in the middle of, I would say, a political conflict. That's the nice way to say it. But we actually discovered that there's actually certain political groups, there's certain organizations, there's stuff that we just did not understand at that time. But when we traveled, we discovered all these issues. So when we came back to Canada, we were like, okay, what can we do? We kind of worked on making our hand a human-looking hand. We tried to find filaments that match the skin color too, so it could match, the body of the amputee. But also, we kind of thought of improving the business model, as in we start to think of the sustainability piece. None of us was actually ever trained to think about business. We just watched Dragon Den and we thought we had, we became an expert in business suddenly. But none of us had actually been, worked in a business or even a social enterprise. None of us have thought of how can we make this sustainable? Who could give money? Refugees can't pay. NGOs won't be able unless we do some stuff that really take us away from our vision and mission. So we had to think of a way, and the way we came up with, it's not really replicable in different countries, but could work in certain places, is that we would work with a local prosthesist who does not have this technology, and the technology does not exist in many places. We would train them, we will show them how to use the technology, the system, and we will be providing both the technology, the knowledge, and the skill that will give them kind of a disruption in their own market in which they could actually raise the price to sell it to regular people because they're still amputees in normal countries. And that money could be enough to actually finance hands for refugees for free. So that's the best model that we came up with. Again, we always keep testing, validating, failing, going back up. So it's an extremely dynamic space. And if anyone here ever worked in a startup, this is a no surprise to anyone who have been in any startup situation. While we were working on this and traveling back and forth and with all these NGOs and endless emails and competitions and raising money, we got a call from, it was an email, not a call, from someone in Morocco, Casablanca, who I've seen an article about us, and he has an NGO that works with kids, mainly education. He noticed that when he implemented his kind of business and work in the urban areas of Casablanca, he noticed many of the kids are actually born without hands, especially one child who is a double amputee, so he doesn't have both hands. And he asked us, will you guys be interested to help him? And us being, not having so much time, like, of course we can help, no problem. Within a week, he told us he's coming and he's leaving within 1 week. We had no measurement of the kid. We could not really get in touch with that child. His family, illiterate, they don't have access to technology. So we had to think of a way, and a very innovative way, to kind of get the measurements and everything out. So we sent them a video of us telling them what we want exactly. There are certain softwares that we use for modeling, so we needed certain pictures and certain sizes. So we tried our best to get everything from them as much as possible. And we had to go, I think, through 5 people to get to that kid, to get all the measurements. So by the time we got the measurement, we printed, I don't think we slept for a week. It was absolutely disastrous. And 2 hours before the flight of the guy, we asked him to come to meet us at the makerspace. And that is us for literally 12 hours for like 5 days. I don't know if it's a time lapse, so it's not that long, but oh. Can you play the video, please? So that's our partner in Morocco, and we sat down and we tried to assemble the hand and do the measurements and figure out the sizes and everything else. It was mission impossible. That's the terminology I would like to use. And it was funny because there was a very, very small, inaccurate measurements that caused us to really have the design not fit perfectly for the child. But we put so much work, and we were so proud of the hand that we did not sleep, and we went to celebrate, and we could not wait to get the call that the hand did fit the child, because we can't actually see the measurements. We were all in the middle of exams, so all this while we had to do our final exams and doing the capstone project, our last project in engineering, and we were all going crazy. But we actually made it, on time. But it did not really fit perfectly with the child because of, again, different measurements. But the good news is that we did not give up. So we actually bought a bigger machine, and we thought of ways that we could leverage the makerspace at the university because they have new big machines and new modeling softwares. And we contact him like, hey, can you send us new pictures? Because kids outgrow a prosthetic hand every 6 months. So if you think about that child, his mom and dad cannot afford a prosthetic hand, but if they were to afford one, do you guys know how much does a prosthetic hand cost? A lot. I get the answer all the time. A passive hand, so the hand that just aesthetically hands, so doesn't do any movement, is $2,000. The one that have basic movement could be up to $20,000. The one with wires and sensors, $45,000. So that put out of the question to many, many families. Even people who are not refugees, they can't really afford that hard. Especially a kid would need a new hand every 6 months because they keep growing the hand. But with 3D printing, you can really reduce the cost to $20. So if you sell it to a regular person for $500, then you have made enough profit to give a free hand to an amputee who cannot really afford a hand as well. So this is, I guess, I think they got the view, so that's fine. So this is kind of briefly the journey that we had with Dextra, with lots of ups and downs and success. Our partner is actually here. He just got to Canada, I think 2 days ago, and he's leaving in a week. And we're actually working on a new hand for that kid. We're trying our best to actually give him 2 hands, one his size is now and one his size for 6 months, so they don't have to worry about, we want to implement Morocco, just I have never had the time to go there yet because I have been extremely busy with so many things and traveling all the time. But we also want to implement in Morocco, so we have a permanent printing center in Morocco so we can help other kids who need other hands. So now that I have told you my story, many people, the first thing they tell me is like, wow, how can you do this? Do you have time to sleep? Do you do all this stuff? And I really, I sat down and I started to think of what holds people back, as in why don't people actually step up to be kind of difference makers, to actually do something, to build an impact in their own local community, school, class, home, community. And usually people don't do it because the first thing is that sometimes if you want to help someone else and you don't know what to do, the culture barrier is the first thing. Whether you want to work with refugees, youth, women, indigenous people, lots of these issues you just do not know what to expect. And that's something that holds people back all the time. It definitely did hold me back, and I even worked with lots of indigenous women, and I just was not aware of how big or complex some of the issues they go through, and I just made assumptions, which are not really a good way. So sometimes sitting down and talking with someone would help you to kind of understand how you could address the problem they go through, how you can help them without making any false assumption that will actually, like the assumption that we had is that people would like to have a glow-in-the-dark prosthetic because they can see it because they don't have electricity in refugee camps, which was not really a good assumption. But at that time, we thought it was a good assumption. Second thing is that people are scared of the unknown, as in you don't know what to expect, what not to expect. You always feel that what will happen, will this go well or bad, anything else? But you don't know till you do it, so you should do it anyway. The last one is fear of failures. Many of us actually feel like we're being held back because we're scared of failing in whatever we do. Many years ago, when I went back to school again, and after working at DNA research, and I was like, that's not for me. I always wanted to build and design things. I wanted to go back to school for engineering. I could have spent more time studying. I could have spent more time looking for a job in a chemical plant. I could have done something else in my life, but then I thought about that question that I asked you guys at the beginning. Will anyone choose me to be that person for a day for whatever I worked on? And the answer was no, because I'm just living and following what everyone tells me to do, what society is telling me to do, without really questioning what's going around me in my life. And I knew I'm not someone who have unlimited resources. I'm not someone who have unlimited knowledge, but I do know for a fact I could leverage everything I have to build an impact and do something simple, one step at a time. So the refugee outreach program that we worked with, we started, I was alone with 2 others, then we became a whole team. We started with just 1-2 families, but toward the end, I was the 911 call for all the families, and I'm not kidding. I received a call at midnight. One of the women was going in labor. Okay. And I had to kind of take her to hospital. Anything, they might go see a doctor and give me a call, can you translate to us on the phone? Sometimes they receive lots of scam because people try to scam refugees all the time. So they will call me to make sure that, is this true or not? Should we answer or not? So I was extremely overwhelmed as one person, but then I was like, these people just wanted one person to offer them a help, and they were willing to allow them to help. That's why I kind of built a team and structured workshops and kind of brought in volunteers on board to help out with the program. But if I did not really get out of my comfort zone and kind of do something, I don't think any of this could have been possible. I guess if I were to summarize, I guess 3 tips into what you can do to kind of start building an impact in your life. The first one is really just get out of your comfort zone. If you don't feel uncomfortable, if you don't feel worried or scared, that means you're doing something wrong. You should truly get out of your comfort zone. One good way you can do it while you're still in school is that there's lots of clubs and events and communities, and you guys, congratulations, you're in the first step is done. You already came up, you showed up today, and that's one step to do everything else. I tell everyone, if you ever want to go back, do you want to start a business, a project, anything else, go back to school and do it. It's a lot cheaper. Pay your tuition, and trust me, the grants, the money, the competition you can get is a lot more cheaper than going and doing it on your own. So school do give you lots of resources and opportunity. You just need to kind of look for them and put yourself out there all the time to kind of, sometimes like you just have to go out of your comfort zone once and everything then comes your way. The second thing is that if you actually meet someone that you would like to help, always ask them, how can I help you? Never make assumption of what they go through or what journey they have been through or what struggles they go through with. That's I call it the magical question. Just ask them, how can I help you? Just ask them what help you need. How can I help you? And sometimes the look that people will give you when you ask them that question will be surprising because no one have ever asked them, how can I help you? Everyone just assumed that they know what they need, when the truth is no one knows. The last one is do not reinvent the wheel. Look around you for resources, for services, talk to people, leverage all your network and your contacts to kind of help you build any idea you want. If any of you would like to start a startup or a business or social enterprise, many people are scared of sharing ideas, thinking that everyone will steal your idea. Ideas are worth nothing. You always need to be able to actually share your ideas, tell people what you think. The feedback you sometimes get from people who will give you kind of a constructive feedback or might be connection or network or an idea or introduction is what you truly need. And you won't get this unless you share ideas. I'm actually the manager of entrepreneurship at U of O, and I always meet with the students who are like, oh, we have a business idea. Can you tell us about how we can raise money? And I ask them, okay, what's your business idea? We can't tell you because you're going to steal our idea. I'm like, no, I won't. So now I actually have any email that I send out. If you're not going to tell me your idea because I'm going to steal it, then don't show up. I don't want to meet you. So sometimes just changing the mindset, understanding that we're by default social human beings, so we need to talk with each other, we need to understand what's going on. Sharing your ideas is really an important step. Okay, so remember the question I asked you guys? I might not be on that list, which is fine, but truly I just want to say that everyone here could leave a legacy behind, could be someone who would make a huge difference in the community, just that sometimes you need to take the first step and do something. Whoever that was, that person that you thought you want to be for a day, you will not have thought of them if they haven't done something to change someone's life. It might be for good or for bad, no one knows. But I just want to say that we all really and truly build the world we live in. As a generation now, we witness issues that have never surfaced before, so we're the first one who witnessed many issues. And we're the last one to do anything about them, meaning that if we do not act up now on lots of the issues we have, whether it is climate change, the plastic in the ocean, the wars that we have, the social issues, homelessness, the magnitude of these problems happening now, it's extremely terrifying, and we're the first one to witness them now, and we're the last one to do anything about them. So I guess if I were to leave you guys with one message is that please do something about an issue. Try to do a small act of kindness once a day, and you never know. It might be that small thing you do would change that person's life, and then it will be just a chain reaction that will just build up all the time. So, Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you all for being here today. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you guys want to email me at any time, this is my email. And thank you again. And if you guys, do you have questions now?